so we're going to call the meeting to order, or back in recess at 6:25.
She's just here in case anyone has any questions, and then she can go back to her teachers.
Okay, yep. So before we go on, does anybody have any additional questions for Deb? Because it is parent-teacher conference night, and she needs to get back to her students.
Do we know how to log on to Wi-Fi?
Oh, log on to Wi-Fi.
You should be able to get onto the guest.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, there's no password. LES guest.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you have difficulty, I'll text you the password for the resident.
That's great. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Debbie, for opening up the school for us tonight. We really appreciate it because you're awesome. You too. Thank you. All right. So we need to review and accept our agenda. Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Awesome. Any additions, changes, deletions?
No, I don't think so.
I think we're all set, actually. Okay, so hearing none, all those in favor of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? We have an agenda. Thank you. Communications with parents, citizens, and staff. Would you like to be recognized at this time? Okay.
Mark Winslow, just a comment, and I won't bother the rest of your meeting. I just learned today of the proposal for the build addition of the 5 through 8 middle school at Otter Valley. I also just learned today that the board's considering a $45,000 expenditure to draw up the plans for this project. I, as well as a few people that are downstairs at the select board meeting, would like to highly encourage the board not to approve $45,000 of the taxpayers' dollars towards a plan before having warned informational meetings about the proposal, the reasons why, the cost, the timeline, and the reasons for such a large capital expenditure in the district. I really believe the board should get a very clear opinion from the taxpayers before spending money on drawings or any architectural work of a project that may not have the community support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Doesn't look like we have anyone else at this time. Board professional development, we can move on from there. We do have a consent agenda. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, there's no discussion on this, sorry. All those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Consent agenda, thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
I'd like to welcome Lothrop alum and Otter Valley student. Can you just tell the board your name?
Oh, I'm Elizabeth Suya.
And she is joining us today. And having her here reminds me to tell you that I did follow up with Edward Kopp after the last meeting, the student council president. He and I sat and had a conversation last week. We'll do a follow-up in the next couple of weeks about the concept of wanting more student voice on the school board and the difficulty actually of having students have the time to actually come to the school board, and also the idea of having more voice rather than just event reporting, but actual voice in policies, et cetera. Right now, he and I kind of bounced around a couple of ideas, and one idea being that I could bring pizza to lunch at school one day, and he could gather some students and talk with me, and maybe I could invite Lori as a board rep to be there, or whomever she designates, and that might be a way to access students in a way that doesn't require them to come night hours. So he's considering that. He's going back and talking to folks, and we'll follow up and see what works. But I really appreciated the interest and desire. So I want you to know I followed up on that. You do have information in the written report. On top of that, I want to let you know that we're having a food service federal review of Leicester and Otter Valley Union High School on November 19th and 20th. Periodically, they come and look at our practices and procedures, and we're having that this month at Otter Valley and Leicester. They choose the schools. We don't choose the schools, and they chose Otter Valley and Leicester. Negotiations has begun, as I think I put in there today. We did receive a letter from the paras and bus drivers, so those negotiations also will commence shortly. teachers had one meeting, they have another meeting scheduled shortly before Thanksgiving, and your committee, your board committee is meeting this Saturday to look at the proposal from the board. I think that's it.
Any questions for Jean? Okay, moving on. I don't think we have a legislative update at this time either.
No, it's a little early yet.
Okay, nothing there. So, next thing on our agenda is our monitoring report draft interpretation of 2.1, which is our executive limitation called treatment of students and parents and guardians. You should find that in your packet. So tonight is not the final review, it's just to make sure that we agree with Jean's interpretations of the topics in that executive limitation.
There was one part, can
Yeah.
well, I don't know, the first page of it, it looked like there was an missing. Are we on the draft of policy 2.1?
Yep.
Yep.
Where is it?
Interpretation, that first part, procedures and decisions that are, it should either be not untimely, unclear, undignified, unnecessarily intrusive,
Oh, here we go.
right? Or that
No,
are.
the way it's worded is, the way you worded the policy is you're kind of creating a box within which I have to live.
Right.
So the superintendent shall not allow untimely, unclear, undignified,
Not
unnecessary.
that first bold part, the next part down.
The next part down.
Under interpretation.
Untimely, I see.
See, so it's,
Yep, it's a
It should-
typo.
but it also should say decisions that are not untimely, unclear, undignified, because there
You
should be.
mean in the bold part, Barb, or the next
No,
part down?
the next part down, the
Okay,
part
so-
that has
So everything is in the
interpretation-
next part.
Interpretation underlined.
Yeah.
Colon,
Okay, I see.
I interpret this policy to mean that in the numerous interactions with parents/guardians and students, all employees will provide conditions, procedures, and decisions that are not.
Right.
Either not
Bullet-
untimely
bullet
or
point
that
one,
are timely.
untimely, bullet point two, unclear, undignified.
I could also do the reverse and take away all the uns.
Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
but one way or the
Right.
other would need to be.
Okay, got it, thank you.
I had a question in the same section on that fourth bullet. After the dash, was it supposed to read, I interpret, was interpret supposed to be in that one too, before I mean, in between I and mean?
Oh, I interpret to mean,
Oh.
to be
Right.
needed and not.
So right here, in
Fourth
this
bullet.
one,
That
you
fourth
have
bullet
I
point.
interpret to me.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I think it was just missing that.
Thank you. Any questions about the interpretation itself? And I gave you an example of what the chart could look like. Next meeting.
So the next things that get filled in the boxes get
Right,
filled in.
if you're comfortable with the interpretation that I'm, it's reasonable, then at your next meeting, I bring you a final report with the evidence and my statement of whether or not I'm in compliance with each part.
Does anybody have anything else? Questions?
A related question, I guess, with number 2 about storing information. Just a clarification about what's the level of security in our system? Do we have an IT person that really looks at that for the district
Yes.
versus just school by school IT?
No, we have a centralized IT person who sets up the, and she oversees the entire IT team, and I gave you examples of access down below, evidence of compliance there. Those are all systems that she is responsible for.
Okay.
Responsible for setting it up, monitoring, and ensuring that we are as compliant as we can be, or as secure as we can be, I'm sorry.
I think this might just be me. I think I'm just struggling with the format, but if we stay on number, excuse me, on number 2, is the I do at the top part of that statement? Or the I do not? 'Cause-
No, that ends, each section ends with me reporting policy compliance.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So the do not report goes to the section before it. And we
Got it.
don't have that answer yet because the report's not complete.
Got it. So number 2 reads, use of methods
Yes,
of collecting, reviewing, transmitting, or storing student family information that fail to protect.
use of methods that fail, yes. Or use methods that fail. Again, it's.
I'm sorry, I'm just struggling with the wording.
So if you're talking about grammar, I think it works. Use methods that fail. And,
But is that what we want it to say? To use
Yes.
methods that fail?
yes, because
All right.
that's what I cannot do. You have to go back to.
Oh, that's right, we have to go
Further,
back. Yeah, I
without
got it.
limiting, the
Nope.
superintendent shall not.
Got it.
Use methods that fail to
Got
protect.
it, got it. That's what I was missing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jean.
Right.
I kept reading it thinking, wait a minute, this
Yeah.
can't be what this is supposed
This
to say.
isn't a sentence, right.
Right.
That's right. I was doing the same thing with number 3.
And I have to write this thing.
I know.
And number 2, under rationale, I think HIPAA has an extra P in it.
Thank HIPAA? Thanks.
I believe it's supposed to be 1, if it's the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
It is. Thank you.
You got it?
No, no.
You understand now?
Yeah,
Okay.
makes a whole lot more sense.
Is there, if you also have any ideas of other things you'd like to see in the interpretation,
No, I was
Please.
just forgetting to go back to that sentence.
feel free to tell me.
Well, I for one think it looks really good. At this point, so we have to approve this tonight as far as the interpretations, or we're just saying?
No,
Okay.
you're just giving me guidance tonight and
Okay.
next meeting.
Next meeting, we'll have the full, at our December meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the December meeting, right.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Jean? Or anything we should discuss regarding the interpretations for 2.1? Which is the monitoring report on how we deal with students and staff and, or not staff, students, parents and guardians. Okay, hearing none, then I say this is a go for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Work on the rest of it.
Awesome. Nothing there. Okay, governance process. First thing, community linkage, board presence at events, discussion and planning. So are there any events coming up in November that we should be thinking about? And I'm looking at Derek because
There's the Otter Valley Play.
there is the Otter Valley Play.
It is 6:40, time to transition to your final conference.
I haven't,
Unknown caller.
Oh,
sorry. I haven't looked into it, to tell you the
Okay.
truth. I haven't-
No,
I haven't
that-
dug and researched.
No, that's okay. I just know that you were doing some communication stuff around that, and then there was another group that was looking at all of the events happening in the near future. So I didn't know if there is the Otter Valley Play, which is the third week of November. Is there anything else
Let me
that
pull
anybody
up
can
the,
think of?
the events calendar.
And this is what specific outreach again? Just to
I think it's
clarify.
just to be there. I think it's just, you know, even if you're just there with your lanyard on, you know, talking to people, you know, letting them know what we're doing, you know, I think now it's just mainly getting out there and talking to people, letting them know you're accessible, letting them know that we're accessible, that they can get to us and ask us questions. You know, I don't know that we need to have anything, we don't have to ask a question or anything like that, but just be present.
There's, oh, well, there is, this was in my report, there's the parent forum on the 12th. I hope you're talking to people about getting people to come to the parent forum on hazing, harassment, and bullying on November 12th at Otter Valley Union High School at 6 p.m. Open to any community members and parents. I don't see, I must not be in the full events calendar, so I'm sorry. Events from other calendars.
What's the title of that again?
It's the Hazing, Harassment, and Bullying Parent Forum at Otter Valley, next Tuesday, the 12th, at 6 p.m.
And it's specifically for parents who want to understand the policy and what happens in the process and ask some questions. There's parent conferences. Shoot. I think that's the major.
So if those are the main two, was there a Pittsford Harvest Fest, or has that already happened?
There's, no, there's a Christmas,
Yeah, I think the harvest dinner's already happened.
Okay,
yeah, the Harvest Fest is over, but there's a Christmas thing coming up.
okay.
It's posted out here.
Yeah, it's like a Christmas craft sale that's
Yeah.
in here.
Yeah, it's in here.
That's right.
That's not this weekend, it's next weekend, I think.
Okay. Okay. Well, what do you think about having some sort of presence at either the play and or at the event next week at Otter Valley?
I'll be going to the play anyway, I
too.
usually do.
Yep.
I don't miss too many of them.
No, right. So the question becomes is, do we want to have a particular presence there, a table, or do we just
Like
want
a
to kind of be there?
defined thing.
Yeah.
Or just wear your name tags?
Or should we just wear lanyards and
Well, that's
stand
what-
together at the intermission?
We can look like the geeks
Well-
over here, yeah. No.
We've got those informational handouts
Yep.
on the information on the middle school concept so
Model.
far.
Yep.
It might be good to have those at a table for people to pick up if they're interested in,
Just somewhere in the lobby.
yeah, in the lobby.
Or we could leave them at the box office too. You know, as people are picking up tickets, they can grab them there. We can have them in a couple of places. Okay. So I guess I'd kind of like to make this a little bit more formal as if we're going to be at the play, then we should make sure somebody's going to be at each play. I don't think that you're going to be there every performance. So we should have at least one member, or I'd like to see two, just so that we're not out there all alone, at each performance. And kind of know who's going to do that and when, you know. So there's the Thursday night, there's the Friday night, and the Saturday night performances at 7. And then there's the Sunday matinee at 2.
I can do Thursday, Friday.
Okay?
I'll be, I don't know which night though, but either Friday or Saturday I will be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be at one or the other, but I can't commit right now to which one.
Friday or Saturday? Okay.
I'm not sure when I'll go, Lori, but I think if you're putting together like a matrix of having people present, at least out in the lobby.
Yep.
If you've got holes in that, I could sit in at that, even if I don't go, to the show more than once.
Okay, well, if you could let me know when you plan on going, just so
Yeah.
maybe I can fill it in and not make you come an extra time
Okay.
if it's not required. So, and, because I will be at each performance only because I have kids in it, so, but I would like somebody there with me.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be the person
be at
that's
one.
the point person. So,
I'm probably gonna go Thursday or Sunday.
okay. It is a really great show. It's going to be The Wedding Singer,
It's the 21st,
first,
22nd?
22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Yep. Yep. So, okay. All right, so I'm gonna put a small matrix together. If it doesn't work for you, I will send it out. If that date or time doesn't work for you, or if you wanna tell me afterward if a time works for you, we'll put it together, okay? And then as far as the hazing, harassment, and bullying, I think if it's just as many people who wanna go can attend, we can have the same flyer out there, and we can just be there to talk about it with people as they come in or leave.
Be awesome.
Okay.
We can pull that trifold thing,
Yep, you could do that too. Sure.
have the flyers there.
Yep. Sure. Okay. And we'll try out the new OVUU table skirt that we have.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Great. So as you find out, if people come up with different venues for us to be at, if you just, we have a calendar. If you could send it to Melinda so that she can put it in the calendar, or do we send
Yeah. Melinda's fine, or me.
it? Okay.
Yeah, if you're aware of activities going on that would be good, then we can add it to the community calendar.
Okay. Great. All right. So, yeah.
Sorry if this is repeating something I should have in my memory, but did we clarify if we are gonna ever send people to different select boards just to be present in case there's questions?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that we had actually ever defined that.
Great
You know,
idea.
as we're just
It's a
reaching
great
out,
idea.
just, I don't know, just a couple a year just to be present.
Sure.
I go to every Brandon select board. I'm
But do
there
you like
every-
wear your lanyard and be
No,
like,
I do not.
just let the select board know ahead of time, like, if there's any questions?
Or to share what you're working on,
Yeah.
to give an update on what you're working on. You know, we do put it in Front Porch Forum but it, based on tonight's comments and your Let's Talk, I think a direct communication with select boards might be one more way to get the word out.
I just know that when I was at the town meeting last year in Leicester, the town was wanting so bad to just ask so many questions, because they missed that, of course, but just to have that conversation with the town, I think, might be helpful.
Sure.
As we do outreach, instead of just listening, but to be able to like communicate directly back to
Who is your communications committee?
Yeah, who is our communications committee?
That's why I was asking. I didn't know
Yeah.
if they had come up. I think Bill Mathis is in there.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, but we haven't got a matrix of activities yet.
Well, so maybe this is something that
Our
we
next
talk about
meeting.
at our next meeting,
We're gonna-
as far
yeah.
as, when we,
Allison, I know Allison and I talked at our last meeting and about developing that kind of a matrix of activities and people signing up for those specific activities.
yeah, because the one.
Until we have those activities, it's harder to get people to commit to a.
Well, and as far as
something
going out to the select board, we probably want to have the same kind of, what we're providing to one select board, we're telling all the select
Absolutely. We need
boards.
to have.
Right,
So
so-
we're not just speaking for ourselves, but we
Right.
can have a conversation in terms of what the board has been talking
Right,
about.
so I think that's where Allison's gonna come in with our second meeting of the month.
Yeah,
information.
and we're developing the notion of messaging
Right,
so that we have consistent messages going out.
right, yeah, we want to make sure we're doing that.
But I think it would be good to have this lined up so we show up at these meetings well before a town meeting.
Okay.
That's my feeling.
Yep. I'll reach out to Allison and let her know so that we can really talk about this at our next meeting in November.
Yeah, we had outlined it, I think it's outlined in the minutes. There's a number of things that we developed at the last meeting that we're, the idea of scripted messaging.
Yeah,
to
talking
media
points.
every week, things like that. But we need to develop that matrix of activities and then offer that up for people to commit to these activities.
Okay. Anybody have anything else to bring to that? Okay. All right, well, thank you. That's good to note for our next meeting, Greg.
Yep.
So the board Let's Talk communication report, we didn't have any until today. We did receive one from
A select board member.
a select board member in Pittsford, indicating that, questioning the 5 through 8 middle school and pretty much what Mr. Winslow was talking about as far as, they didn't want us to spend $45,000 without having lots of communication with community members in order to determine whether or not that this would go forward. So Jean responded to her very nicely, stating that we were trying to be as transparent as we can be, and that we're bringing this forward and trying to get as much community input as possible. So we'll have to talk about that at our next meeting. I think it makes more sense for us to talk about how we get the message out, because as Mr. Winslow said, he had only heard about it today, and we've been talking about this for a couple of months now.
And it has been in Front Porch Forum and Facebook,
Right.
but you can never reach everybody. To add to my response, I let her know that the $45,000 for the concept design was in order for the board to have the appropriate information to go to the community to say, should this go forward? That it was not, that it was a done deal, but this is information that if the board needs more, if the board decides to go forward to the community, you need this information to share with people.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And that's the most key part of it.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of hashed this around a lot. It's very difficult to even communicate or even collaborate with people over something if you really don't have the facts. If you really don't know, if someone takes an adverse opinion to wanting to go forward with the middle school because it might cost $78 million, right? But you don't really have any facts to say that that's even close to being right or wrong.
Right.
It'd be nice to be able to be at least within an estimated ballpark of saying this is really what we would consider as reasonable, right? And it's gonna cost $45,000, or not to exceed $45,000.
Not to exceed, yeah.
To kind of get that information, and it's
Right.
key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
I think it would be frustrating for all parties to try and have those discussions without
Yeah, you couldn't.
without having some factual information that would directly lead to those questions about costs.
And I think somewhere along the way, even as we came up with this as a next step, I think we kind of said it was a feasibility study that we were going to do, right? Because if the numbers do come back staggeringly high,
We're not going to
then
go
it isn't
forward.
feasible.
Right. Exactly. So Greg, did you have something?
I was just going to comment that, the concept has been sort of vetted and hashed out in the community for, I don't know, a year or so now through the task force and everything. So this idea is already been out there. It's now just simply, we want to have the money part to it so we can have the conversation for the community to see both things, so.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Eric.
I have an editorial that I would like to propose, something like this be put out into the Reformer that's related.
In the Reporter?
into the reporter.
You said reformer.
Are you from Brattleboro? Yeah, Brattleboro reformer?
I was like,
You're in the wrong part of the
You might be
state.
interested to know.
I was like, where
You're
are
in
we?
the suburbs.
I
Okay.
went to school in Bellows Falls.
Okay, all right, there we go. All right.
That's where I mixed
Next
it
town
up.
up.
The next town up. So that was our common kindling paper. Yes. The reporter. It's basically a rewrite of the flyer information that we have, put out as an informational piece that, OVUU board is asking for community input on the future type of heading that talks about the task force work and the idea of a middle school proposal, and the board's asking for further input to gain insights about interest levels about this as we work to obtain architectural estimates to identify construction costs involved with this concept. It's important to note that it doesn't mean that we're going forward with it, that we're looking for information that will help us with decision-making, so that kind of thing.
So the question for me is that if we're going to put anything out there, I assume that we should all be blessing it, and so we should all read it and possibly wordsmith it a little bit.
Sure.
So I'm thinking that, and not to put you off a couple of weeks, but
No, that's fine. No,
if we can put that into like our next board packet so that everybody can read it, and then wordsmith it, and then finalize it at our meeting on the third Wednesday? Is everybody okay with that? Are you okay with that, Darren?
That would be
Yes.
the kind of thing that it would be okay to put out as a Google Doc to the board, for people to reply directly to Derek with comments, and then he could bring a draft to the next meeting?
Yeah,
Fine.
okay, great,
Yep.
okay. So thank you for doing that.
Sure.
I know the reformer, I was like, the what? Okay, anyway, sorry.
I think that, just to say, I think it's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
Because obviously, we sometimes want to communicate to reporters the story of what we're trying to say, and not to say they don't do a great job, because they do, honestly. We have great reporters. But this just allows us to really clarify our statement and what we're trying to say. And it feels more direct to the readers, so I think it's a great idea.
And if there's significant players, which obviously there are, that are being surprised with the notion, even now, after all the work that we've done, then we need to continue to get this notion out there. So,
Well, and it'll be important for us to be in contact with the reporters and other forums to try and get as much information out as possible. So, and that, maybe the select board is key to that. So that's the one piece that we haven't tried before,
right.
or at least not.
Well, we've gotten feedback from at least the Pittsford Select Board.
Sure.
So they need information.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, anything else regarding community linkage? Okay, we need to designate a VSBA voting rep. Bill and I will both be at the VSBA annual meeting tomorrow and Friday. So we need to either vote him or myself as our voting rep. We did the VI rep, but we failed to do the VSBA rep. Bill is our VI rep. So if you would like to do Bill as your VSBA rep, I'm all for that. We just need a motion.
So moved.
There we go.
Second.
All those any discussion? Nope. All those in favor of voting Bill Mathis as our VSBA rep, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Great.
Charlene, that's rep for the annual meeting on November 8th.
Yep. Okay, the next one is, we need a motion for some short-term tax anticipation borrowing. Apparently, do you want to give the backstory of this? I know you told me, but I don't want to screw it up.
I don't either.
I remember what it had to do. Had something to do with the fact that, they're not gonna be able to give us our next set of special ed monies.
That is part of it, that the state is delayed in their their delivery of special ed reimbursement, which potentially will make us delayed. I think there's more to it than that, and I also see that numbers aren't filled in. So,
Do we want to?
can you skip that? and
We'll
I'll try to
skip it and
reach-
come back, okay?
back.
Okay, let's see. Set budget parameters, continued from our 10 to 19 budget development assumptions. So what we need to determine, it's in our packet, was what the board feels that it needs for the budget, I believe, correct? What we want for our,
Right, so,
There's a set of.
in the packet is the information that kind of guides you, but I gave you a recommendation in the superintendent's report of this is about the board's budget. And the recommendation that I'm giving to you for consideration is that you might want to add $20,000 for the work of the communications consultant, which might be less depending on where you end up going with this, so you could play with that amount. If you end up with a bond vote for next year, which I actually don't recommend, I think it's too soon, but if you do.
Good evening, Wellthorpe family. It is 7 p.m. and the end of our family conferences. We do thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks.
A vote would cost you about $8,500. Professional development, we're recommending $500 per person for a $6,500 budget line. This year, we sent a couple people to conferences. We are bringing in Susan Morganson, although she's giving us a heck of a deal, for the INS retreat, and there might be one or two other things like that, or policy governance training things. And then I just wanted to point out that you don't need to deal with the negotiation expenses, because those go to RNESU board. That's who absorbs that. So that's for your consideration. $20,000 for communications consultants, $6,500 for board professional development. And I don't know if you want to consider a bond vote between July 1st, 2020 and June 30th, 2021, then you should add some money for that.
Garrett?
I don't know if it's out of order, but the board had asked the Hawk Hill Committee to propose an annual budget item for the committee work. We did meet on Monday. The minutes are in the office.
Yep.
With a recommendation for $500
Would
annually.
that go under our board stuff? Okay.
I don't know if that's appropriate at this time.
No, it wouldn't go in, well, maybe it would. I think it would have its own line, but yes, $500, we're assuming that.
Okay. Okay. Yep, sure. Any ideas? Like this, don't like this? Want to make a motion? I'm not hearing anything. So this would be, so it would be,
You ultimately can still shape your budget after you put this in.
Right,
It just gives
I
us
know.
guidance as we're bringing you a budget to you.
so is this in addition to what's already in the budget?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, I think those items are necessary items for sure.
okay.
And I think I mentioned this at one of the other meetings. I think that we as a board have benefited by having the help of a communications person. I think we should really continue with that. The dollars amounts, I'm not really sure what they would be. I guess I'd have to take guidance on that. But as topics and things to include, I definitely feel strongly about that.
Yeah, I would make a motion to add this amount, if we're at that point.
Okay,
A second.
Which
And we
amount?
can discuss.
so are we talking the 20 and the
The 20,000.
6,500?
Just the 20
Or
at this
just the
point?
20?
No, I'm talking about the 20
Okay,
and the 65.
so the 65 is for the board professional
Right.
development?
So both of those, so
So
26.
both of those?
Yep.
Okay. And you don't think we'll do a bond vote
Now,
next
I
year?
was going to ask a question.
Yes.
I wasn't clear what Jean said. Are you not recommending we do a bond vote next year? You saying it's too soon?
When you get to that discussion, I think that at least the November presidential election is too soon, and based on comments made here tonight from the public, I still, I think that'll be too soon. That's that would only cost you $3,500 if you were able to
Right.
use that election.
Yeah.
But I think it's too soon. And I'm wondering, you might be looking at the next November. You really don't want to rush this.
Right. So my recommendation then would be the 20,000 and the 6,500.
Okay. And were you still seconding that?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion other than what we've already had? Okay, all those in favor of Bonnie's motion of adding 26,500 for a communications consultant for us and some board professional development, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstaining? Thank you.
Brenda says that we're able to table the tax anticipation of where we are now. We're able to table it till December.
Oh, okay. All right, we've done that. So, our next one is the 2020 summer construction. You'll see OVUHS front entrance. You'll see that it's been tabled to our December meeting, and that is because we wanted to make sure that Jim did not or did want to be involved in the process. And because he is still out, we are waiting for him. And so we will give him time.
And the architect feels that you could still start something in this summer if that's what you end up doing, if you take the vote in December.
Right. Okay?
Seems reasonable.
Still time.
Okay, yeah. All right, consideration of facility reserve funds to develop concept in middle school. So this is the motion to authorize superintendent to enter into a contract with architects, engineers, or other building consultants up to $45,000 from the OVUU Facilities Fund to create a conceptual design for renovation and addition to OVUHS for a 5 through 8 middle school, including preliminary cost estimated for future bond consideration. So we've heard, we've had the Let's Talk about this. We've talked to the communities in the last couple of months, and we heard from Mr. Winslow this evening. What's your pleasure?
I still feel very strongly, Lori, that we need to be armed with some facts to have intelligent conversations with people. And I'm still in favor of moving forward with this, just to position ourselves a little bit better.
Sure. So you're making the motion?
I am making such motion.
Awesome. Who's gonna?
Second that.
Okay, discussion.
Just a clarification, this would, so we send an RFP out for this? This will go out to bid? Okay.
Yep. Yes.
I know I said it before, but just to state it, since it is the discussion.
Sure.
You know, we spent a long time coming up with the concept. This was the concept, and everybody at our community forum said, now let's get a price tag. So that's kind of where we are right now. So we're just kind of following the timeline of what we've done, so.
I think if I heard it right too, it's important to clarify that we're not only following a timeline, but from our forums, there was input from a number of people asking for this as the next step. Tell us what this is going to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Other
Do you want
discussion?
to add in thoughts to that letter that I submitted?
Oh,
As-
yeah.
as we look at
When
that.
we all look at it, absolutely.
When you have a chance to look
Yeah.
at that, from your task force frame of reference, there's probably more you can add into that.
Great. Or maybe we want him to write his own.
Or you write your own.
So,
That was easier to add to somebody else's.
Exactly.
anything else? Okay, hearing no other discussion. All those in favor of Barry's motion to approve the $45,000 to develop the concept for the middle school up to $45,000, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? The ayes have it. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the update on the superintendent evaluation process. Becky, would you like to take over for that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Shoot. Barbara? Is that? I'm drawing a blank on. the person.
Brenda.
Thank you.
Brenda Hummel.
What's her name?
Yep.
So from Barstow.
When I saw her eyebrows go up, I knew it wasn't her, so.
Right, well, no, I knew it was. I just couldn't, I could see Brenda's face in my, but I just couldn't think of her name.
It's like, no, not me.
Brenda and I are on the committee, and at the Rutland Northeast meeting, it seemed like, though we want to
not do the evaluation process the way that we have in the past because we haven't had enough monitoring reports, that we'll do the one that we've done before, maybe tweak some, wording or whatever. Brenda and I will look at that together, but not change a whole lot so that, right, it can be the same. And then people from Rutland Northeast Board were feeling like once we have a year or two worth of the monitoring reports, those themselves could be the evaluation.
And Barstow, who does have a year and a half of monitoring reports, will attach their document about monitoring reports to that evaluation.
Right. Any questions about how we're going to do that superintendent's evaluation for this year? Okay, so essentially what we're going to do is the same as what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
For one more year.
So, yeah, look for your email.
Great.
I was going to say, watch the email.
That's right. Board member recruitment. So we have 4 people or 4 positions open on the board this coming March. Our Leicester seat, which is held by Angela Ouellette, is coming up for re-election. Our Brandon seat that's held by John Rasmussen is coming up for re-election. And 2 of our at-large positions are coming up for election, which currently are held by Matt Philo and Emily Nelson. So if anyone is interested in one of those positions, they can go to their local town clerk and get the correct paperwork so that they can start filling that out. We also will probably sometime in December or January, Jean and I will be holding a kind of forum that will allow people who are interested in becoming a board member to come and see what it's all about, find out what policy governance is about, and see if that's interesting to them so that they would want to be on our board and help us craft the next generation of young learners. Wow, that was good.
That was well said.
I know. Anyway, yes.
Is there a mechanism for getting that information out to the public in general?
We'll use Front Porch Forum, probably. We will use Facebook. We'll probably put it in the paper somehow. So yeah, we will try and get that out there.
The paperwork isn't ready yet, so this is time for you to think about it. The paperwork gets ready in December, and it gets turned in the 3rd week of January.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And also remember that our at-large membership can come from any town. It does not have to be from just, it doesn't have to be just Brandon or just Sudbury. It can be from any of our 6 towns: Goshen, Sudbury, Whiting, Leicester, Brandon, and Pittsford. Got them all.
You did.
All right. So, work plan development review. So our work plan is at the back of your packet. I don't believe we need to add anything to it at this point.
Your next meeting is November 20th.
Right.
The night before the play opens. It looks pretty blank. You're good.
Okay.
So that's going to be a work session.
Right.
Communications work session.
Okay.
Our task force work session.
Yep. Okay. Our next meeting, we do have our joint board end retreat with Barstow next Wednesday, November 13th. So if you haven't said whether or not you can come, there will be food, if that entices you to come.
But there won't be enough for you unless you tell us you're coming.
That's right. You need to tell us you're coming. That is in the OVUU library from 5 to 9. We will be talking about our ENDS policy, our global ENDS policy, and how to make that better. And then our next regular OVUU board meeting, which this is wrong.
Yes,
that's tonight's, November 20th at Otter Valley at 6 o'clock. Okay, board self-evaluation. So I have a new self-evaluation. I would just like to go through this and you guys tell me what we need to mark on it. We provided strategic leadership by focusing on ends. Always most of the fist of 5, we'll do that. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. What do you think, Derek?
I didn't understand.
So we provided strategic leadership by focusing on our ends, which is that global ends policy.
Yes.
We did.
Yes.
Okay.
I was not paying attention.
Nope, that's okay. We obtain and or consider ownership input, always, most of the time, some of the time, rarely, and never.
You're very good on that tonight.
I thought we did really good. Okay. We encourage diversity of viewpoints.
Yeah.
4 3/4, thank you. We were proactive and future focused. Oh, I think we did that well, too. Yeah. We limited our discussion to items that related to the board's governance job. Four and a half, okay. And decisions were made collectively.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anything else that we need to bring forth to the meeting before leaving?
I have a question that,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
at the risk of digression and being off task
don't make me have to change those
I
numbers.
was gonna say, we might
and all
have
those
to,
numbers,
we might
and all
have,
those numbers would have to
we
change.
might have to change the self-eval.
I mentioned briefly, I think to Jean, but I read something in the Mountain Times about the Slate Valley expanding their telemedicine school health program, and Jean was aware of it, but I'm wondering if that's something that would be beneficial for our district to look at, or do we struggle with getting nursing support in our schools, and is that something that's viable in the future to look
Yeah,
at?
it's interesting what Slate Valley did. We have struggled in the past. Right now, we're fully staffed with nursing staff, but particularly our small schools have struggled. The fact that we merged and we were able to reassign from another school and she could share schools is what basically got us out of that problem. But it still means that, Lothrop, it does not have a full-time, it has an 80%, and the small schools do not have a full-time. And the way Slate Valley addressed that problem was by signing up with the telemedicine service and have the nurses they do have kind of overseeing all the schools. So it's interesting. I've been talking to the superintendent about it to learn more about it. I'm kind of watching to see how it goes for her. But it's something that we might consider adding in the future. If it goes well for them, we'll let them pilot it.
Right, just keep it on the radar as
Yeah.
something to watch. Okay, thank you.
I probably won't get Derek's article to the board until Monday, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Could I just add something to that?
Sure.
Jean, just an idea that we were talking about in another district the other day is that I think most small schools and districts struggle with finding nurses, especially schools that are looking for 1 day or 2 days. And so what some districts have started to do is look outside of the supervisory union boundaries, so yourself and some.
We've talked with, in the past, like with Addison.
Gotcha, okay, so you're already on that.
Yeah, trying to, like, do we together buy a nurse and have them move
Exactly, okay.
around?
So you're
Yeah,
already on that.
We have
Okay,
looked
good.
at that.
Great. Anything else? Okay, so I have one more thing and then I'll let us go. So the last thing I want to say is, as you know, Russell Jones left the Pittsford Reporter rather suddenly for an emergency back home in Texas. I just wanted to say, as a board, hopefully you all agree with me, that I thought he did a great job talking about us in the paper and being very neutral so that he got the information out there. And thorough. So I want to say thank you publicly to Russell Jones for that. And I also want to say, welcome back, Lee Cars. I'm looking very forward to her being back in town. So, having said that, if I can get a motion to adjourn at 7:18.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're out. Thank you.